On the morning of June 5th, 1968, millions of Americans woke to the shocking news that New York Senator Robert Kennedy had been shot after winning California's Democratic presidential primary. Kennedy, 42 years old, died the next day. The senator's campaign staff included a young man named Jeff Greenfield, who is now, of course, our senior political correspondent, and we've asked Jeff to share his memories with us. Jeff?
Katie, you know, when you look back 40 years, there was always a danger of romanticizing a prominent figure. But after looking at hours of old films of Robert Kennedy, I'm convinced that what I remembered and admired was something very real.
And we'll make a new day for mankind with your help.
There was, first of all, the campaign itself. Since it was my first glimpse of presidential politics, I was 24 years old, working as a junior speechwriter. I didn't know then how remarkable it was. The controlled hysteria of the campaign play, the size and intensity of the crowds, the sea of hands and faces. There was also a lot of humor. Robert Kennedy had very little patience with the platitudes of politics, and he often mocked them, and himself. Listen to him explain to the citizens of Pomona, California, why he won't put on the oversized sombrero they gave him.
What if it's too big? Now, what if it's too small? Now, then it'd fall down over my ears, and then you'd be embarrassed that you gave me a hat that was too big. Let me try it on at home. Try it on in front of the mirror, quietly.
And here he is at a Pennsylvania college, beginning the speech with the obligatory quote.
Thomas Jefferson once wrote that a little rebellion now and then is a good thing. But if I'm elected president, don't try it.
Apart from playing with his audiences, he would also challenge them. The most enduring memories of his appearances for me is how he would push his listeners into thinking. Here he is talking to college students about why he opposes draft deferments for college students.
As you stay here and sit here and debate all of these questions and talk about the morality of some of these problems and the poor and all of these other difficulties, and then say that a person who has the right to and ability because of maybe what his father did or his mother did, or the place that he happens to live, has the right to go to a college or a university and therefore doesn't have to be drafted, and a poor boy who happens to live in some area or happens to be black has to be drafted, how you can argue that and state that here in this audience.
He would condemn violence and lawlessness in the ghetto, but then he would add this.
But what is also necessary is that we understand one another, that you understand their problems, and that the black people of the United States understand that you are concerned about them.
Kennedy was also ready to challenge himself. When he turned against the war in Vietnam, he would always include this.
And when the history is going to be written about this conflict, I'm obviously going to have to take my share of personal responsibility. I happen to think I learned something from that.
At the heart of Robert Kennedy was a sense of passion, even outrage at conditions he often called unacceptable. He was a Democrat who hated welfare, not just for the anger it stirred among taxpayers, but mostly because of what it did to the poor.
They might have wanted fathers, and they might have wanted husbands. We have given them instead checks and a dole.
And now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.
It all came to an end in a hotel kitchen in Los Angeles. But my last memories are not of that moment, but of the train ride that took his body from New York to Washington. A train ride that stretched for 8 hours. Inside, there was something of an Irish wake, family members greeting friends and campaign workers, telling old campaign stories. But every time we looked out the window and saw the countless tens of thousands gathered to say goodbye, kids and Cub Scouts and Little Leaguers, veterans in their old uniforms, that sense of loss was overwhelming. We can't know if he would have been nominated or elected or governed well, but did we lose a rare kind of public figure? That I think we do know.
That scene along the railroad tracks reminiscent of FDR and Lincoln as well. Can you believe, Jeff, it's been 40 years?
It's yesterday for me. It's yesterday. And the vividness of those people outside the train, that's what got to all of us.
Well, Jeff Greenfield, thanks so much.